Welcome to Leverton on Everything. I'm your host, Leverton, and this is everything. This podcast has two rules. The first rule is that I will review literally everything, although, to be honest, it's mostly just movies and TV shows. And the second rule is that usually the episodes are under 10 minutes, although I think this might be the exception that proves the rule because today I'm going to talk about Superman and Lois, the CW TV series, and I have a lot of opinions about it. I love the character of Superman, and I think the reasons I have always loved it is because while it is an allegory for immigration and the Jewish experience in America, it is also a paean to family values. I don't mean family values in the way that that phrase has been perverted by modern politics. I mean, Clark is who he is because he had a good family and a good community to raise him. Clark's struggle in this series is that he wants to be accepted for who he truly is, but he has hidden his identity for all of his life. This journey of his had the potential to make the series a great one, especially because of the dichotomy between his secret life and the love of his life's mission for the truth. While I did enjoy watching the character of Superman and Lois and the friends and family that surround them, this show sadly fails to tell any meaningful story. It starts out the first two seasons strong, but the writing, while never perfect, becomes atrocious in seasons 3 and 4. There are some stunningly beautiful shots. One is where Clark, as Superman, proposes to Lois and they are backlit by the sun. There is another one which is also an odd choice to make so beautiful, but it is, when Superman punches Lex out of his suit and all of the pieces of the suit fly behind him, and Lex is just this tiny human stuck in space for a split second. There is one minor thing that bothered me, and it is tiny compared to what I will complain about later, but Lois is treated as a physically beautiful goddess in this show. Clark thinks that Lois is one of the most beautiful women in the world. Fair enough. She's the love of his life, but we as the audience don't need to think that. And we don't, because she isn't. There is this meet cute scene where Clark is stunned by her beauty, and we are supposed to be stunned as well, but we aren't. And in Clark's deathbed scene, she appears in this red dress and is also supposed to be some goddess of beauty. But that red dress is not a symbol of how Lois actually looks. It's a symbol of the love Clark has for her. So she could have just been dressed as she normally would be and carrying the dress. This is no fault of the actress. She does an amazing job with what she is given. But she is not a sex goddess. The actors who play Lois and Clark have amazing chemistry, and it is great to see them in more normal moments. But time and time again, they are let down both as characters and as actors by bad writing. Lois is diagnosed with cancer in the third season, and the show missed the opportunity to show the conflict between mortality and a reluctant God. What would that feel like, having the potential to lose someone so important to you when you have to go on? Superman does die of old age in this series, but that comes later. At that moment, he is practically immortal, and the writers never have him address that question. Not only is he helpless to prevent the cancer, he is also a slave to time in an even crueler way than humans are. He cannot die, like us, even if he would want to. Jordan, one of Clark and Lois's twin sons, is put through some strange things. He gets his first girlfriend, and they seem like a cute couple in the beginning of this series. In the second season, she seems distant, and it turns out she kissed a girl at a summer camp. That's a completely realistic thing to have happen. But the way everyone around them reacts to this is bizarre. Sarah's parents say this no big deal and that Jordan should forgive her because she's way out of his league. What a weird thing to say to your own child. This is ironic because later it is revealed that her father, Kyle, has had an affair, and this is treated like the worst thing in the world and destroys their marriage. Kissing someone else and having an affair are different, but isn't it a matter of degree? No one tells Lana, the mother, that she should forgive Kyle because he's out of her league. That's just Sarah's parents, though. Superman and Lois Lane are no better. They never acknowledge the hurt that this must have caused their son. It's again, Sarah is so great. You need to forgive her and move on because this is so small. And by the way, you're also lying by not telling her not telling your identity to her. Uh, no, sorry, not telling her you have powers, but don't you dare tell her you have powers. Then Lana is threatened because, so then when Lana is threatened, Superman reveals his true identity to her. So it seems like the secret can be revealed when it's convenient to Clark, but not his children. Jordan's torment in this series doesn't stop with that, though. When he gets his powers, it's the equivalent of body horror. He is suffering, he can see through people, he can hear all of everything on the planet, and the show does a good job of showing the consequences that these powers have. His twin, Jonathan, just randomly gets all of the same powers one day without any of the problems that his brother has. This is to show his brother is the more mature twin. Lois and Clark may love them both equally, but it is clear that the writers did not. I think by the time Jonathan got his powers, the writing on the show was atrociously bad, but this can't really be forgiven. So Jordan is the first one with powers, and he is struggling with it, and then Sarah dumps him. When she finds out, that he has powers, her feelings don't change. But then Jordan is made out to be this weirdo because he can't handle being friends with his first love, and he is, again, I have to say, 14 or 15 when this happens. There's even a scene where some kid says that someone else may have powers and everyone is making fun of him, and Jordan says, yes, that's possible, which everybody around him takes horribly because they're supposed to be hiding his secret. But what's a better way of hiding his secret? 100% denying facts, or by selectively agreeing with them so you don't seem like a flat earther? There's also this horrible moment where Lois is called by Lex Luthor and given the chance to save one twin or the other, and Lois chooses Jonathan. I think that decision is so out of character for her, she wouldn't have made any choice because she probably would have run out of time. This is rightly devastating for Jordan. And again, the writers of the show just hand wave it away by acting like Jordan is being his normal angsty self again. Jordan is the victim of the show, but so is Sarah. She's a complex person, but the choices the writers have her make her seem like a harpy. And it's not just with Jordan, although I was kind of fixated on that aspect when I was writing this review. It's also connected to how she deals with her mother and her mother's breakup with Kyle. Like, you can have problems with your dad's new girlfriend, but she basically says to her mom, like, it's your fault that dad left, you're a horrible person, and her mom slaps her. Like, there's no reason for that, really. It's just to set up this, like, slap right? Like Lana feels really bad because Lana was abused when she was a child. I guess that's the story. And that aspect of what Sarah said is just sort of a catalyst for that. It is dealt with a little bit, but again, so they make Sarah do all of these horrible things to people. And my problem is when Sarah does horrible things to other people, there are consequences. When she does it to Jordan and Jordan reacts badly, it's Jordan's fault, basically. So that's weird. Jonathan, the other twin, also doesn't come out of this series unscathed. In the first two seasons, he was an interesting character, but the actor playing him quit due to personal issues, and it seems like after that they were so terrified that the second actor playing the character would also quit that they made him into a golden boy with no flaws or personality whatsoever. And because, and this is another problem with the writing of the show, Jordan has this character development that began in the first two seasons. So he has all of that. He's an interesting character. And then you made Jonathan completely like golden boy. So it makes Jordan look worse, even though Jordan is also just a young boy. Right? It's crazy. This show, while technically not part of the Arrowverse, has some of the major problems of that franchise. The first is that every season has a big bad, so that every season feels completely distinct from the others, although the last two attempt to tell a unified story. The villains are surprisingly well written and acted. Tal Rowe, John Irons, Bizarro Superman, and Bruno Mannheim, all have reasonable, for them, motivations, and after they are stopped, most become allies. I think that's pretty unique. That's a pretty unique and respectable thing that this show did. Superman doesn't want to destroy his enemies, he wants to redeem them. Lex Luthor is played in a maniacal, menacing way, which I think is actually the best depiction of the character that I've ever seen. Most depictions lean into the fact that he's a billionaire and weak, and not into his sadism. This Lex is somebody who built a commercial empire not on purpose, but as a side effect of building a criminal empire. And he does not care about his money at all. His motivations are a bit insane, but they are clear. He has a very rigid view of the world. If you don't 100% support him, he will destroy you. And the actor playing him is great. He's a hulking, gnarled, middle-aged man. This is exactly what you would expect after 15 years in prison. 17 years in prison, sorry. The villain that falls flat for me is Doomsday, partly because the character from the comic doesn't have a lot of development. It just gets stronger every time it dies. But it's partly because of the systematic writing problems this series has. So, Doomsday is created by Lex when he discovers that Bruno Mannheim has been injecting Bizarro Superman with Superman's blood in an attempt to create a cure for his wife, who is suffering from cancer. Bizarro Superman is Superman from another world, and his biology seems to be the same as Superman's. At least it seems to work in a similar way. Superman's blood should either do nothing to the Bizarro Superman or heal him. It shouldn't make him into a mindless killing machine. And the CGI version of Doomsday looks so bad, and the fight with Superman also looks so bad. There are a few moments where there's one or two good shots of Doomsday, but the graphics on the video games that the twins sometimes play in the show look far better. The ending of the show, and I'm not being facetious and I'm not exaggerating here, the ending of the show is one of the worst in the history of television. It pains me to say that because I did enjoy the characters and seeing their lives. The ending starts with Lois's dad, Sam, making a sacrifice to give the dead Superman his heart. So Sam dies, and the other daughter, Lucy, who is such a big part of the events of season 2, does not attend and is not even mentioned she doesn't attend the funeral. They have this funeral on the farm for him, and Lucy's not there. And Lucy's not even mentioned. And that's the crazy part, because in the first two seasons, she is mentioned sporadically in the first season, but she doesn't appear. And she's a character in the second season. So why not just have a line like, oh, Lucy can't make it, or just get the actress, pay her for that scene and get her there, because her dad just died. Of course you would want her to be at the funeral of her father unless some other thing could happen. And they were really close, actually. So so Lucy is estranged from Lois for the most part of the series, but she continues to have a relationship with her father. So she would for sure be at this funeral. So the human heart saves Superman for a while, but eventually it is rejected by his body, and Superman dies of old age. Fair enough. After the plot with Lex is ended, they provide a flash forward that shows what happens to these characters in the future. This is merely the result of the show's cancellation and desire to give the fans some closure, but there's so many problems with it. We see Clark and Lois getting older, and the twins growing up and having at least 12 children combined, which is odd, but okay. We don't see if any of these children have powers or what Jordan and Jonathan do as two of the few people on that earth with superpowers, and this was such an important part of the story of this show, how those two deal with their superpowers, and in the future it's not mentioned at all. Crazy. That is also not the worst thing about the ending that's coming. So a deceased Clark is narrating what happens in the rest of his life, but then he dies, he leaves his body and goes to heaven, maybe, where he has touching, in quotation marks, reunions with everyone who is important to his life, in his life, including his sons, who are, you may remember, not dead. And in these touching reunions, every one of the characters is human. There are no Kryptonians whatsoever, not his brother, who he developed a good relationship with, not his parents, who he had good relationships with, even though they were holograms. And also, most glaringly, although this was very important for his development of the character, his adopted father, and adopted mother are also not in this imaginary heaven. Yeah. You know who is there? The second wife of one of his acquaintances. So basically, his best friend marries Kyle. They get divorced. And after the divorce, Clark and Kyle sort of become friends. And Kyle gets married to, I forget what her name is, but a lady. He gets married eventually to a lady. And she is in this heaven version of Clark's at the end. Like, oh, it's so ridiculous. So this scene could have been much shorter, showing Clark and Lois becoming more frail, and hinting at what Jonathan and Jordan do with their superpowers. And if you want, you can give them both families too, although that was not something either one of them expressed any desire to have. And then Clark could say something like, and you know, I realized I did it all for my family and friends. And then have all the important characters, human and Kryptonian, appear as some sort of force ghosts and smile and nod. It would also be cool if there was some acknowledgement of Kryptonian death rights, because again, Clark is not human. It's a very important part of his life that he is an alien. But any ending would have been better than what they came up with. Yeah, as I said before, it's the worst ending in history. And it sounds like I wouldn't recommend this, but I would. If you're a fan of the character, it's worth the suffering. But if you don't really care about Superman, it's probably best to avoid this. Yeah, so that is twice as long as my normal, 4 times as long as my normal episodes, but I had a lot to say about this, so thanks. Bye.